This is lesson 9.5, slope-intercept form. You probably need a piece of graph paper because I'm going to teach you another way how to graph equations. This is one of the most important things you'll learn this chapter because we're going to use this in the next few lessons. So make sure you take some good notes and write down some questions if you have them. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is what slope-intercept form is. This is what slope-intercept form is. You can see there's a lot of letters in that right now. But the slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Or you could have y equals mx minus b. This could also be a subtraction sign. It could be either one. Now the m is where the slope is going to go. And the last part is the y-intercept. You have learned two ways how to graph an equation. We did it with the 4 pairs where we found 4 ordered pairs with the table. We talked about intercepts. And now there's another way to graph it by just looking at it. So slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. And make sure you get the m is what slope is. And the y is the y-intercept. And don't forget that this can be a plus or a minus sign. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to state the y-intercept and the slope of the equations. So the first one says y equals 3 over 5x minus 7. Well, the first thing we're going to think about, well, where's the slope at? If m was going to be in here, if we had y equals mx plus b, we knew in this spot was the slope. So this right here is my slope. The y-intercept is here. Okay, and you might not know what this means yet, but you will in a second when we start to graph. Okay, so the other thing, here I have y equals 8x plus 6. So slope would be here. Now if it's just a regular whole number, you can put over 1, because then you have a rise over run. Remember, slope is rise over run. And run. Rise over run, and usually there's numbers on top and bottom. So if you have a whole number that doesn't have a number on the bottom, you can put a 1 underneath of it and it makes it in slope form. So this would be your slope, and this right here would be your y-intercept. All right. All right, so how do you graph something like this without making a table of ordered pairs or without putting in your intercepts, your x and your y? So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start to label my graph here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, almost done. Okay, so I'm going to look at my my equation here, and I know that this is the slope, and we know slope is rise over run. Okay, and we know this is the y-intercept. If you can remember a few days ago when we talked about intercepts, and we knew what x was and y was, then we graphed them on the graph. So this is y, this is x. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to graph the y-intercept. So if it's on the y, this is the first place where it's going to cross over that y-intercept. So I'm going to find the y-intercept on the y-axis, and I'm going to plot my point there. That's the first point I'm going to plot in my line. Then I'm going to use the slope to figure out my next points. So starting at my point, I'm going to rise 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to go over 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is my next point. So then I'm going to do the same thing from this dot. I'm going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to go over 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is my line for this graph. So we did it without making a table of values, and we did it without using intercepts. We just looked at the equation and we graphed it by just looking at it, which is kind of nice. Okay, so let's try another one. I'm going to not put any numbers on it, so I'm going to assume that you know it goes by ones. So this is my slope, and I remember if it's just 2, I'm going to do 2 over 1, so that's my slope. This is my y-intercept. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to graph my y-intercept. So on my y, I'm going to go down to -4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. There's my -4. And then I'm going to use my slope from this point and go up 2 over 1, up 2, over 1, up 2, over 1, up 2, over 1, and there's my line. Okay, I'm going to do another one. Let's do another one. So let's do y equals 3 over 2x plus 2. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, here's my slope, here's my y-intercept. So I'm going to find 2 on my graph, on my y. And then I'm going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3, over 2, 1, 2. Up 3, 1, 2, 3, over 2, 1, 2. And there's my line. I'm going to do one more, and I'm going to do a negative slope. So before in my last video, I talked about, positive slope goes like this, but what about negative slope? Negative slope goes like this. So let's say I'm going to graph this, y equals negative 2 over 1, x plus 3. Okay, so instead of going up with my slope, we're going to go a different way. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be consistent. I'm still going to graph my y-intercept, okay? But now since it's a negative slope, instead of going up 1, up, I'm going to go down 2 and over 1 this way. Down 2, over 1 this way. Down 2, over 1. And there's my negative slope. So negative slope, you're going to go down first. Instead of rising up, you're going to go down, and then you're going to go over. So that negative slope will give you actually a negative line that looks like a negative slope. And we can go over that again. I can do it one more time. So I'll do one more. So if I have y equals negative 1 over 3x plus 7, I'm going to start at 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the y. And then since it's negative slope, I'm going to go down 1 and over 3. And I'm going to down 1 and over 3, down 1 over 3. And this is what my line would look like. So negative slope, you can already tell by just looking at it, if it's a negative slope, your line's going to go this way, and a positive slope, it's going to look like this. So just make sure you know the difference between the two, and we can talk about that again another day. All right, so the last thing is, what if your equation isn't in y equals x plus mx plus b format? Because sometimes that happens. You're given an equation like this, and they're going to say, put this in y equals x mx plus b format. So first of all, let's just look at this. We know that this is the slope. We know that this is usually on the end by itself. We know here's the y-intercept. So we know that the slope and the y-intercept have to be on the same side. So it's very simple. All we're going to do is, since we want y by itself on one side, we're going to subtract 5x from this side, and we're going to subtract 5x from this side. Now there's really nothing else I have to do. I really have everything here together. The only, because I have my y-intercept and my slope on one side, the only thing you might need to do is to just change the order of these two things. So it'll be negative 5x plus 3. And there it's in y equals mx plus b for you, because we want the y by itself. So we have to get rid of the 5x, so we're going to subtract it from both sides. Let's do another one. This is the hardest part of today's lesson. Okay, so I have x plus 2y equals 8. So I need the y. I know I have a 2 with it right away, but I'm just going to leave the 2 for a second. I need the y by itself. So the first thing, if you want to put a 1 in front, you can put a 1 in front. I'm going to subtract 1x from both sides. Now this is what it's going to look like. It's going to look like this 2y equals, and I'm going to flip these two things around because I want it in that y equals mx plus b form. I want my slope first and my y-intercept second. So it looks like this. Okay, so I just flip those two things around. And then notice that I need y by itself. So if I want y by itself, I have to get rid of that 2, and it says 2 times y. So to get y by itself, I'm going to divide by 2. Now if I do that here, I have to do it to every single thing on the other side. So I'm going to divide by 2, and I'm going to divide by 2. So I have y equals, and since this is slope, I'm just going to leave it like this. I'm not going to change it. I'm not going to do anything like this. That tells me that my rise, or my going to go up 1 over 2. And then plus, and I know this is 4. So this would be what that equation is in y equals mx plus b form. Let's try another one. Here's another one. Why don't you try one by yourself? At least try it, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it. Okay, so here's the form you wanted in. I want y by itself, so I'm going to get rid of the 4x. I'm going to do it on this side. Okay, so now this is what it looks like. 2y equals, and I'm going to just change these two things, and I'm going to flip them around so it's in the right format. Okay. Now if I want y by itself, I have to divide by 2, which goes away then. But then I have to divide it by everything else. So I have y equals, and if you can divide this, and it works really well, you can do that. So I know negative 4 divided by 2 would be negative 2x plus, and I know this would be 3. And this would be the answer. So this is the hardest step to today's lesson, and I'm totally aware of that. So I'm planning on going over this again in class many times. So if you have any questions, let me know. If you're still confused, that's okay because this takes a little bit of practice. So I will see you in class, and I appreciate you watching till the end of the video. Thank you.